Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Tech Bites with Poonam. Today, I'm here in the studio with another guest of mine. His name is Curtis Dorian, and he was elected to represent the City Council Place 1 in May 2023. He has lived in Richardson for over 20 years in District 1, and he has been deeply rooted in the community. He's a member at the First United Methodist Church Richardson, and he's a member of the Richardson Chamber of Commerce as well. Prior to being elected, he served as the president of the Richland Park Oaks Neighborhood Association for 12 years. Curtis is also the president of Dorian Bahr Company, his own. Curtis owns and operates his own interior design architectural planning practice, including the turnkey construction services for design build, remodeling, and comprehensive land development for residential and commercial clients nationally. He currently serves as a board of directors for National Association of Remodeling Industry, North Texas, and national co-chair for Ethics and Bylaws Committee. He has been actively involved in the community and has served in the Leadership Richardson Board of Directors and Class Rep Leadership Richardson Class 34, Richardson Citizens Fire Academy Class 24, Richardson Care Citizen Academy and Resource Education Series Class 2, and the Richardson Citizens Police Academy Class 42. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Curtis Dorian in the studio.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure, you're most welcome. Thank you for coming.
Certainly do appreciate it.
Sure.
And thank you for the introduction, by the way.
You're most welcome.
As most everyone knows, I am deeply rooted in Richardson. I love the city. I love the people. I love the community, and mostly I love the diversity in Richardson. We have so many wonderful things to provide. The city allows us to actually focus on different directions and allows people to engage in all types of cultures and communities, especially through the Chamber of Richardson Chamber of Commerce, obviously is an invaluable piece of the puzzle. It allows individuals that live and or work in Richardson to apply for Leadership Richardson. The CARES role, which is sort of an extended version of the Leadership Richardson. It allows you to go behind the scenes and learn more about the governmental issues, deeply rooted governmental issue. So again, we've supported the Richardson Chamber of Commerce for over 20 years.
Nice.
And we actually have one of our employees at the moment, our marketing director.
Okay.
She applied for leadership, class 40, which is coming up. She was accepted, and now the company, Dorian Bahr, we generally, when an employee applies, will support that as a patron.
Okay.
And it's part of something that we can contribute for continuing education roles,
Nice.
as well as any licensing that someone may have. So we really, really appreciate having that.
That's
as
very
part
nice.
of our company.
That's nice. That's nice. So tell us about the criteria. How do you select to be in that class? What do you look at if someone wants to apply?
Well, there's two sides of it. There's one, if someone comes to us as an employee, we have to evaluate, is this somebody that we want representing the company as a whole? Is this somebody qualified? How long have they been with the business? What role do they play? And is this something that's going to be sustainable? When the company, supports us financially, we want to make sure that it's, an invested interest for the community and for the company.
Right.
So that is one area that the Dorian Bahr looks at. But as far as Richardson Chamber of Commerce, there's probably could be over 50 to 100 applications for one class, and they are hand selected by a committee.
Okay.
And the class is generally around 40. That has fluctuated over the years from 35 to 45. I think in my class we had 40, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
It's been a while, but generally they go through the application. Part of the criteria is to know your leadership role in the community, what you're involved with. Are you involved with anything for the Chamber of Commerce? Are you involved with other outside interests? Maybe the company holds, whether it's AIA or ASID or any other type of remodeling or design programs and organizations. So they look at what you've supported, how long you've been involved, and you do have to get recommendations. A minimum of 3 is
Okay.
preferred.
Okay.
Although you can get as many as you want. I've had people win certificates for getting the most recommendation
Recommendations.
letters.
Okay, that's nice. So tell us, how did you get into the city council, the other role that you play, rather than being in the Richardson Chamber of Commerce?
That's a very good question. Very good question. And thank you for asking.
Sure.
I think it was inevitable for me to move into, or at least just consider this as an elected role. Over 20 years ago, I moved to Richardson, not even realizing I was moving to
lived
Richardson
here.
at the time.
Yes.
And I moved into a wonderful neighborhood. Kind of reminded me when I was growing up as a kid. Nice, small, nested community. I loved my home. I loved the neighbors. I loved the neighborhood. So I immediately got involved with the HOA. Started off as the beautification co-chair. Met a friend of mine that lived in the neighborhood. She was the beautification chair and worked with the architectural committee. So she asked me to be co-chair. The board accepted me. I played that role for about 2 or 3 years, and then I became president of the HOA. I was president for over 12 years. At that time, that's where I learned a plethora of things through the city of Richardson. That's when I started developing my leadership role in Leadership Richardson, investing my time and energy into the Chamber of Commerce, going through the CARES class, CPA, which is Citizen Police Academy. I went through the Fire Academy. So I just literally deeply got involved with Richardson and wasn't even planning on it, actually. I never planned on being in politics. It wasn't on my radar. But I learned to work with the city. And being part of an HOA, I have to tell you, that is, if anyone were to ask me, I'll back up there, if anyone were to ask me how to get involved with your city and your community, get involved with your HOA or your neighborhood association. Because first of all, being in a small boutique community such
Right.
as Richardson,
Right.
it allows you to work with the city managers, the city staff, the parks departments, the police department, fire department, matching fund programs, anything that can enhance the community. So I think that I would always highly recommend that. But with saying all of that, that's what got me involved with Richardson and getting to know the community and the
Right.
people. So over time, and I've been told this many times, timing is everything.
Correct.
So when
That's
it
true.
came time for our current mayor, he stepped down in place one, and my phone started ringing, and it took me a couple of weeks to figure it out, but I finally decided to run, and I did have an opponent at the time, but I ended up winning that election, and now I'm serving as a city council member
Correct.
in place one for the city of Richardson. So my path over the last 20 years has taken me to this
Places.
spot
Right.
and to this place.
Right.
And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it and how much I love this position. And I hope to goodness I can continue on in this role and
Right.
get reelected
Right.
coming up in 2025.
You sure will. Yes. So I personally, my company, Mees Sandhu CPAs, I personally joined Richardson Chamber of Commerce last year. So I was in Garland. The office was in Garland at that point, and I knew that I would want to move to Richardson, so I actually joined. And I had that ribbon cutting. I think we missed you on that. But I'm a part of this Women Leadership Committee as well, and I personally feel that I really like it. You meet lots of people. It's a great way of connecting, networking, And I've met Bill Ballard, and I'm making new clients, and obviously going through each other's struggles. We go to that business network meeting on Wednesdays.
Yes.
It's a great start of the business. You kind of start looking at a different perspective. You want to give back to the community, but at the same time, I think you can benefit as a startup like mine. So I think it goes both ways.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. And you know, and speaking of meeting people,
Right.
I know that's where you and I met originally,
Yes,
which
we did.
again, we
Right.
would have not met otherwise.
Right.
And then working with you has been invaluable, and I've certainly appreciated. And I appreciate all the services that you've provided and helped us with, and helped my company
Thank
and
you.
me personally. So, thank you for that,
Sure.
and thank you for being a part of Richardson Chamber.
Thank you. Thank you. So now talking about your company, tell us something about your design firm. How did that start?
Well, that started, actually, next year will be 30 years. We'll be putting together a platform.
Okay.
And Dorian Bahr is a general branded name that's done many, many things over the years. Yes, we've been in the design world, and we call ourselves a design studio because we've been in the design world on different platforms throughout the last 30 years.
Right.
So we're gearing up to rebrand at the moment, kind of give us a little facelift, a little freshening up. We have a new marketing director, which is also involved with the Chamber of Commerce
right.
and getting ready to go through Leadership Richardson.
Right.
And part of that is to look at the last 30 years and see where we've been and where we're going, and new changes for that. But generally speaking, I studied architecture and interior design over the years. I've been involved with product design and development. Dorian Bahr actually started in the textile business,
Oh, he
which, by
did?
the way, we still
do?
have that entity. It's called Dorian Bahr Textiles, and it is a fabric textile company that we sell fabric to the interior design, interior decorating, and architectural industry. It is wholesale to the trade at the moment. And we do have a website, of course, DorianBahrTextiles.com. But we sell and produce fabric throughout the world, anything from Brazil to Italy, everywhere throughout the country, so or throughout the world. So that is kind of where we started, and that sort of took us into the showroom business. We went from textiles, and we opened our first showroom in 1998. We opened at the Dallas Design Center here in Dallas, and then 2 years later, in 2000, we opened up another boutique showroom in Houston, Texas, at the Decorative Center there at Post Oak and the Galleria area. Those were multi-line showrooms. We carried extremely high-end furniture, fabric, lighting, all home deck products. So during that, Dorian Bahr was engaged in design, remodeling, started off in residential remodeling, and of course our background, or my background especially, was commercial.
Right.
I worked for several architectural firms over the years that we practiced commercial design, whether it be small building or tenant development, multifamily. So we've engaged in that as well as interior design, a lot of architectural planning, a lot of interior design planning. But Dorian Bahr has done a lot of different things in the design industry. And I'm only giving you a little bit of this background to show that Dorian Bahr is a branded name that's done a multitude of things over the years. We're not just a architecture and
firm.
interior design firm, but we're also involved with product design and development, like, for example, textiles. We started off, like I said, in the textile business, so we design, we produce, we are a fabricator, also we are a jobber and a converter in the industry, and we work with mills all over the world. But our primary business now, as things have moved forward, we've sold off our showroom business in 2010, and therefore our focus then was to work on design, interior design and architectural planning for commercial and residential. But over the years, we've done remodeling for residential. We design new homes, new home build, and we're heavily engaged now back into commercial. So we're doing multifamily, tenant development, small building, daycare centers, facade So we do a lot of different types of things, and we design everywhere throughout the country.
Okay.
So I just want to say that it's strictly not just one thing. We've been engaged in a lot of different design. And now with our new marketing director and the new branding for Dorian Bahr, we are letting the marketing director develop a new department as a marketing agency for social media and website design, digital marketing. So we want to open it up to different design types.
Right. So website design would be great. Maybe I will reach out to you on that. So being in the city council, then, being actively involved with the Richardson Chamber of Commerce and your business, how do you balance all this?
Very carefully.
Yeah, it's hard.
Very carefully. It is very hard. One of the applications I had to fill out, among many, while I was running, is how many estimated hours did I think I was going to be contributing to the city council role. And I generally put in there and went, probably 30, 35. And I thought that was a lot, but I thought, probably that much.
Was it a weekly or?
Weekly.
Weekly.
Yes.
It's almost full time.
25, I think I put 25 to 35 hours and gave it kind of a timeline there, or time frame. But I've found, and again, this depends on how involved you are in the community.
Right.
I spend 40 hours a week, 35 to 40 hours a week for the
Just for
city
the
of
city
Richardson,
council.
just on city council. And that involves a lot of things. That's going to ribbon cuttings. That's going to chamber events, early
Right.
morning, late afternoon, whenever they occur.
Right.
And it's also going to different functions and being involved with what the city is advocating for.
Right.
A lot of the things that our time takes up is basically getting back with constituents and residents.
Right.
The emails and the phone calls come in. I
It's a
checked
lot.
my voicemail last month. I had 101 messages
Oh,
at
my.
the city of Richardson. I have a voicemail there too, by the way.
Oh my God. That's a lot.
It's a lot. But honestly, I've learned to balance. In the beginning, I went to almost everything. So that's why it took 40 hours. And generally speaking, if you do participate in everything, sure, you can spend 40 hours plus. But I think you learn to balance that over
Prioritize.
time on what you do need to attend, what you should attend, and
Right.
what's not necessary.
Right.
Because most of us on city council all have full-time jobs, and
Right.
some have their own businesses.
Right.
So therefore, you still have that responsibility. Even though Dorian Bahr is in succession planning at the moment, you still have those obligations
Right.
and time. So, you spend 40 hours or 50 hours a week with a company or your own company, in my case, and then you spend another 40 hours a week. So you're clocking in 100 hours a week minimum to balance that. And
Right.
that sounds like a lot.
It does.
I would say the only thing that has shifted, or one of the only things that have shifted, is probably my workout schedule.
Right. Yeah, that we all compromise on. That's true.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of compromising. But again, I have no complaints. I love doing this. I love doing it for my community.
Right.
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Any other way. That's very nice to put it
Yeah.
that way. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. It
Thank
was
you for
great
having
having you on our show, and thank you for answering all my questions. I apologize if I, asked anything which you weren't supposed to answer or whatnot, but I think, thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. And thank you for having me. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
So that was Curtis Dorian. We had a nice session. So today, I was thinking about what to talk in this episode. So last time, I think we talked about the Schedule C profit and loss in the 1040 and how the income and expenses come through. So today, I thought maybe I'll talk about non-for-profit as to how that can be established, what things you need to look at when you're establishing it. So let me show you the very first step as to what needs to be done when we do that. So what are the things you need to consider before starting a non-for-profit? The first and the foremost, before incorporating, you need to figure out the fundraising plan. You'll have to figure out where your donations are coming from, your private donors or any specific grants you're getting, any fellowships, any loans. Where are you going to get the money? You need to make that plan. And also you need to have an annual budget. as to how much your revenues are going to be, how much your expenses going to be, because you need money to start that being a non-for-profit. So that's your first step. The second step would be incorporating the non-for-profit organization. So it could either be something that you can do, or maybe if you already have a CPA can help you incorporate the non-for-profit. So incorporation procedures are basically similar as to profit versus non-for-profit, but I think I'm going to talk about state of Texas. So state of Texas fee is very less in comparison to the profit corporation. And usually it's registered with the Secretary of State with the state of Texas, and you have to have at least 3 board members. Now, the next step, once you're incorporating, you'll have to pick a name. So you're choosing a business name and checking the availability. So if you're going through your CPA, he or she might ask you for 3 names that your non-for-profit you would want it to be, to make sure that those names are available. So your first, second, and third preference. So that needs to be selected. It has to be unique. Nobody else should have it in that particular state. And the word corporation or incorporated has to be within the business name. So once we find out whether that is available with the Secretary of State, we move to the next step. Now, once that is done, then we have to prepare or file the articles of incorporation and create bylaws. Now, this is something which you don't have to file as such with the state, but you have to have the articles of incorporation written down and kept with each member of the boards and also with the principal office of the business. The filing fee, like I stated, it ranges between $20 to $120 instead of $300 with the state of Texas for the LLC, the corporations, which are for the profit. Now, what should the bylaws would consider? Lots of my clients, they ask, what are the bylaws? Wouldn't the articles of incorporation would be enough, or do we have to have bylaws? You have to have bylaws, and they should have how the corporation is operating. You need to know how the business will be run. You will make the decisions, how the decision makers will be selected, the principal place of business, decision makers as in, the board of directors, who will be the treasurer, who will be, the board of director 1, the CEO, all that needs to, whosoever will have those responsibilities while you're incorporating it, so that you can write it in the bylaws. This person is responsible for this person is responsible for that. So that is very important in writing. Okay. Now, after the bylaws are, kind of created, you have to have an organizational meeting. In that meeting, whosoever the board of directors were when you incorporated the business, the non-for-profit, you all have to come in and you kind of, point who is going to be the director, who is going to be the corporate officers, CEOs, the CFOs, taking care of the financial side, the CEO, COO, and then adopt the bylaws that have been created. Then you set the budget. Set the budget as in you have to see who are your private donors, where is the money coming from, how much budget you can afford, what are the expenses, what would be the revenues, are you able to afford paying your directors and corporate officers, or maybe with the first couple of years, you might not be paying them anything, because that's something which they also are aware that that's why they're coming on board. And then the minutes of the meetings should be recorded. So this meeting, whatever you discuss, somebody has to type it out, and that minutes of the meetings has to be there in your possession. So that is needed for the donations later on when you kind of mark it as a non-for-profit. Okay. Now, after all that is done, you're registered with the state of Texas. You need a federal identification number. I personally recommend a CPA to help you with if you really don't know, because there's specific points that need to be selected. That can be applied online with the IRS website, and then you can get it within few minutes. So that's also needed for the tax purposes. Now, the last slide coming on to this is very important, because this kind of goes through what type of non-for-profit companies there would be. So these are Form 990 series. So the first one is listed as 990-N. So that's basically when your non-for-profit is going to have the gross receipts normally less than 50,000. Okay, so you say, okay, not going to be that much. So we end up just filing the 990-N, which is basically a postcard, but you need to file it. Otherwise, you are not in compliance with laws and regulations of the IRS. The second is going to be if the gross receipts are less than or equal to 200,000. So then it comes 990-EZ. Okay. even if it's if it's greater than 50,000, some companies prefer a 990, but being a CPA, you're able to see, okay, if it's less than that, you can maybe do a 990 easy. The IRS website has everything. If you go to irs.gov, you'll be able to see these requirements. And then if the gross receipts are greater than 200,000, obviously then you have to have a 990. 990 would inquire about the vision and the mission statement that your non-for-profit has. So all that needs to be written down. And that comes back to the bylaws and the organizational meeting where you will write the vision and the mission statement of your company. And that is also required for the formation of the non-for-profit as well. And then lastly, the private foundation, regardless of your financial status, that is the 990 PF. So that's basically summing it up as the non-for-profit, categories. And then to sum it up, I guess I would personally recommend getting a CPA involved when you're doing it. And then this makes the process a little smoother. So that's all for today. And thank you so much for listening to me. I thought this was meaningful. I thought this will be helpful for the non-for-profit out there. Again, I recommend a CPA getting him or her involved as to what the procedures are, because the corporation, incorporating the non-for-profit, it's very important to be done correctly so that the main function of getting all that done is a 501c3. So you're able to get everything done with the state of, any state that you want to do. I would prefer, I'm talking about state of Texas, but it's very easy to get that incorporated with the state of Texas, getting the federal identification number, all that is done. But then the most important thing is getting the 501c3 status. So that is very important based on how much gross receipts you will have. Then based on that, we will do the 1023 EZ or the 1023, getting you the 501c3 status. For that, there's a lot of questions needs to be answered, so I recommend getting a CPA involved. And that's it for today. If you want to reach out to me, firm name is Mees Sandhu CPAs. You can check my website, www.meessandhucpas.net, and it's all on the screen for you to look at. Thank you. I'll see you on another show. Thank you so much.